And so I was like, oh, this sounds like a great story to share for somebody who may be going through the same thing, which, like you were saying, I feel like is not that uncommon.
Are less likely to be have depression, less likely to be suicidal, less likely to be in toxic relationships. All of the negative things you're less likely to be.
Mm-hmm. Imagine that.
Imagine that. Welcome your people. Yeah. You could say welcome people.
Welcome people. I am your host David of the Sunny Side Up podcast. Say hello, Kylee.
Hi, I'm Kylee. I am Kylee Boyle. I'm so excited to be here. And a little bit about me. Christian wife, mommy of 3. I run 2 successful businesses. I've got a podcast as well. And I'm excited to publish a book this year. So I'm super amped to kind of come in and share my story with your listeners and hopefully give them some tips and tricks and things they can take away from the episode to just implement in their own life to feel better or do better, be better.
So where did you start and how did that kind of relate to where you're at now?
Yeah, that is a multifaceted question. So I will just start at the beginning. One thing I really have come to grips with and I'm now just starting to share with people is, I spent a great majority of my 20s in a toxic relationship. There's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of turmoil, and, I now obviously can't regret it. I've got my kids and stuff, but, I was a young feminist. I met this, handsome hoodlum, right? I'm like, oh, I can change him. I'll show him what love is, blah, blah, blah. And the first piece of advice to young women I want to say is, if you meet a man and the first thing you want to do is change him, he is not the man for you, honey. Just know that. And 10 years of struggle and fighting and, physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, mental abuse, I finally came to a spot where I was like, this is not working. This is not good for anybody. It wasn't fair to anybody. And, I know that there are some relationships where, a lot of it is really one-sided. Ours, it takes 2 people to tango as far as like ours went. And, sparing everybody, the details and stuff, it just came to a spot where, we were growing in 2 different directions. And, I was at a place where I was ready to level up my life. And I think the biggest factor that played, because a lot of people have asked me, well, why did you stay? Why did you stay? Why did you stay? I mean, as a woman, when you fall in love or think that you're in love, you truly want to see that through. I feel like that goes for everybody. When you truly care about someone, number one, you don't tend to always see, the things that are wrong. And you find a lot of excuses to, pass those off. And like I said, I was, I'll make this work, but I really just ended up enabling both of us and what was going on. And it was really, really unhealthy. I had come to a place where I was not myself. I started seeing physical manifestations of my stress and my anxiety. And so, after 10 years of struggling and fighting, we finally broke it off. And I wanted to talk real quick, if it's okay with you, about, the other aspect is, we live in a culture that has really romanticized toxic relationships. One song that comes to mind is that song that Eminem and Rihanna did called Love the Way You Lie. Do you remember that one? Mm-hmm. And then, you've got also, The Notebook. Allie and Noah were constantly fighting, but they were so passionately in love, and like it was raw and it was great and it was real and it was gritty. And you've got Bad Things, that song by MGK and Camila Cabello. You've got Issues by Julia Michaels. So like our young people are constantly barraged by the media and our culture with propaganda and these influences that are telling them that these relationships where you're fighting and now no relationship is great, like we were talking before we started recording, no relationship is perfect. You are going to have differences with the person that you decide to do life with. But it should not be to the point where people are getting physically hurt, people are being broken down, dehumanized. When it comes to that spot, it's that unhealthy place. It's time to go. So as a young woman, while I was going through this, I would hear these songs and I would watch these movies and I would truly believe that we loved each other so much. It was so perfect and we're going to make it. We can do everything and anything. And that is not what happened. Mm-hmm. So, I did start over as a single mom. Luckily, praise the Lord, I had family and friends who were standing by for 10 years, waiting for the day when Kylee finally had enough. And, the thing is a lot of times when people are in these relationships and the people outside who love them, they want them to leave and they want to do anything that they can to help them leave or assist them. And the thing is you have to understand your friend who's in that toxic relationship most likely is not going to leave until they are ready. And something is going to happen, and hopefully it's not something too tragic, but something's going to happen, and until that thing happens, that person is not going to leave. So I'm really glad that, my family and friends stuck around and, they supported me and they helped me. And it was really stressful, starting over and trying to figure out how I was going to take care of myself, take care of my kids on my own. I had never lived on my own before. I moved out of my parents' house, moved in with my boyfriend, and, I've literally never lived alone. After that, obviously I moved back into my parents and then I moved in with Ryan. And part of me is super okay with that because I don't like being alone. But, I was really stressed out about, trying to figure out how to do this. And so the best advice I can give is, if you're, a single parent, or you're in a toxic relationship and you've got kids you have to deal with, that shouldn't stop you from pulling yourself and your kids out of that situation. I know that a lot of women, who are in toxic relationships are like, well, how am I going to do it without him? I don't know what I'm going to do, you can do it. And I wanted to point you in the direction of, getting enrolled in, community outreach programs. There are lots of state aid and government aid that you can get on. And I'm not a fan of living off of those programs. I'm not an advocate for that. But when you need help, you need help. And that'll help. And that'll take some of the stress off so that you can be present with your kids who, especially if you are leaving, their dad or your husband or whatever, are obviously going through some emotional turmoil and trauma as well. Everybody's affected. And I think that that's one thing that people lose sight of when they have kids in these situations is it is affecting literally everybody. And so it's your job to make sure that it affects them in a positive way. And it's never too late to start over. Whether you've been in this relationship 10 minutes or 10 years or 100 years, it's always okay to go and start living a healthier life. And that is what I've really set myself out to, is connect with other women who, and girls and teenagers who might be in these situations, and really trying to give them encouragement to, make those good, healthy choices,
Mm-hmm. When we first spoke on the phone talking about what we're going to talk about today, I went in because you spoke to my brother thinking, okay, we'll talk about real estate and that realm.
Yeah.
But then this kind of came up in conversation. I was like, that sounds great. Because I feel like, of course, real estate's going to be relative to realtors, but this kind of story can be relative to anybody.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, this sounds like a great story to share for somebody who may be going through the same thing, which, like you were saying, I feel like is not that uncommon.
Yeah. I'm willing to bet that anywhere, I will openly say I'm 35. So I'm willing to bet that the demographic of the ages between 18 and 35, I would say, 30 to 40% of people, namely women in that age bracket, are or have experienced a toxic relationship, and have had to start over. And so that's another thing is, like, you're not alone. You're not the first person to go through it. You're not the last person to go through it. Get connected to the programs that are going to help you get through it mentally, emotionally, financially. Get connected with a church family. Start going to church. A church family will it will change your life. A good church family will support you. They will help you. They will fill those gaps that you are freaking out about. And then it's also about perspective too. It's one thing, so when I started talking to Ryan, I was like, are you sure you want to, start a relationship with me? I'm a single mom. And he said, no, you're a family starter pack. And I cried. I sobbed because it was such a beautiful thing. And it was not something he even had to think about, So when you think about single mom versus family starter pack, one has a stigma. Even nowadays, it's tough, it's stressful. One has value. And whether you feel like it or not, you do have value. And someone is going to come along and they are going to value you. And it might not be someone you expect. It might not be, a romantic relationship. It might be a friend. It might be someone you meet at church. It might be someone you meet at work, but you do have value. And so I want to press that for sure is, even when you're feeling worthless, you do have value. So it's really all about your perspective. Just,
you mentioned going to church, which I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh my God, you're talking about religion, but it's can't important. Deny the numbers of people that have good lives that go to church. And yes, there are outliers that, crazy ones that are saying, chasing down the street saying you need to believe in Jesus, you're going to go to hell. Of course, there's those people. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, there's extremists in every category. And it's statistically proven. I wish I would have brought it with me, but when we joined, we go to Bethany Church off of Hiller Road in Waterford. And when we joined as members, Pastor gave us this little pamphlet. And inside were statistics. So it is statistically proven that people who are involved in church and who are engaged in not just going to church on Sunday, but, engaged in some type of ministry or service are less likely to be, have depression, less likely to be suicidal, less likely to be in toxic relationships. All of the negative things you're less likely to be.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. So, so we, fast forward, I got a job as a paralegal. I ran the office for the attorney. It paid me well. It allowed me to take care of my kids. It gave me confidence and purpose. And just remember your why too, because I know not everybody can come out of this struggle and have a job that they love. But when you are going to that job, just remember your why. So fast forward, that was 2015. It's almost the end of 2023 as we record. Mm-hmm. And I'm happily married to my very best friend. Listen, ladies and fellas, find your very best friend and marry them. That's gold. Mm-hmm. We could drop the mic right now. And that is the best advice I could give. I've become very observant of other couples in my life. And it's always interesting to me when they are very clearly not best friends. And Ryan is my very best friend. Like during COVID, I was like, we're spending 24 hours a day together. How can we spend 25 hours a day together? Mm-hmm. I mean, we also drank a lot of whiskey because all the kids were home, but he's my very best friend, and 3 beautiful kids, 2 successful businesses, a successful podcast. I'm excited to publish my book this year. So it's just, I'm so thankful to God that he gave me this perspective moment, right? So, when you are in the valley, it's very hard for you to see what's in front of you, to see the top of the mountain. Everything's enshrouded in fog and uncertainty. But as you start to climb the mountain, and when you get close to the top, you can look back down in the valley and you can see all of the places in that valley where you gained experience and you gained appreciation for where you are on the mountain now. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I've had the exact same thought process
It's a
many
beautiful,
times.
it's a beautiful revelation. And
Mhm.
mine could only come from God because I mean, I can literally look back and obviously, well, if I hadn't gone through all of that, you know, I wouldn't have my kids. I wouldn't have the appreciation for my husband who, I mean, full disclosure, on our 4th date, I was like, listen, I want to get married. Like, full disclosure, like not to scare you off, but like I had spent 10 years learning what I didn't want. And I literally was just not interested in fooling around anymore. And that's why I told Ryan, I was like, if this is not going in this direction, then like we can be friends, but like, you're not going to come over and hang out with my family. Like, you're not going to play with my kid and stuff like that. And he was like, no, we can do that. So I'm like, okay. So, you know, a couple years later, he proposed. And 6 days later, after that, I had my dress, I had my venue, I had my menu, and I was done. Like, I was ready to marry him.
Like, all right, let's go.
That's that. So again, you know, find your very best friend and marry them and do it quickly.
Yeah, the one thing that I don't know if it was my grandpa on my mom's side, I don't know, but the saying was, "Do you love them? Okay, but do you like them?"
Yeah.
Because I mean, we're humans, we have lust for who we're attracted to,
Yeah.
but it takes the wise person to look past that, close your eyes and think, do I really like this person, or do I just like what I see?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, after hearing that, it's like, okay, mental note, never forget that.
Yeah.
Because you have to remember that when you think, okay, do I want to spend the rest of my life with this person? And if there's another pandemic where I'm locked in my house for 24 hours a day.
Am I going to prison, or are we going to live happily ever after?
Right. Like, can I do that?
Right.
Can I spend the entire day with them and not be like, oh my God, I got to get away from them?
Yeah, and still crave more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, I saw, it was just a funny meme or whatever, and this woman during the pandemic was like hiding in a closet, said, oh my God, I've been living with my husband for 30 years and he still asks me where the forks are. He's like, I can't take it anymore. So it's just that breaking point, like, all right, I got to get away from him. Like, you know.
I mean, like we said, every relationship has moments. There are times where, especially when I'm hormonally unstable, you know, I've looked at Ryan and I'm like, just stop chewing. He's just minding his business, eating a banana on the couch next to me. And I'm like, the mouth noises, just stop with the mouth noises. But it's just, they're not deal breakers. Like, he delivers on all of the most important promises that he ever made to me. And so, fine. Noisily eat a banana on the couch. Do what you will. Like,
Yeah.
For sure. But that was good. All good stuff.
Talking about the role models, and I don't mean to be jumping back and forth.
I'm not mad at you.
But like, we talked about the pros of going to church and being religious.
Yes.
I just think, and whether this be a role model with real estate, whether it be a role model with life advice, role model with relationships, I just think, because the way that I found mine, and I'm a huge believer in the Stoic philosophy, is that a lot of people would agree, coming from various backgrounds, would agree, is it good to have patience? Yeah. Is it good to have clear, level-headed thinking? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think anyone would say, no, it's good to be rash and make quick decisions.
Right.
Like, I mean, everybody would agree that thinking in a very calm and clear and concise way, I think everybody would agree that that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But so many people are like, oh yeah, that's good, whatever. And then they go back to their own opposite ways. And I think, wait a minute, how do you agree with something wholeheartedly and then not practice it?
Right.
I saw that. I was like, why aren't people doing this? And so when I saw that, I was looking into different role models. So Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, those Stoic philosophers from back in the day. I thought, okay, well, these are the people that I want to be like.
Yeah.
These are my role models.
Yeah.
So how can I, in every day, in every minute, every second, how can I emulate them? I mean, I'm not going to be Marcus Aurelius, but like, how can
I'm glad you're not going to start dressing like him and start running around.
Toga and
right.
curly hair.
That'd be a whole nother conversation. It'd be a different day.
Yeah. But I just think, how can I emulate them to the best of my ability? How can I emulate Jesus? I mean, I know he is not mortal. I mean, he was when he was on earth for 33 years, but like the Holy Spirit.
He is a good role model, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, but like the Holy Spirit, I mean, how can I do my best to emulate that with everything in my life? I mean, for example, we have a bird. I hate this bird. It's so annoying. It just screams extremely loud, like for no apparent reason.
You're preaching in the choir, because I hate birds. Pet birds. I like them outside where they can do their bird thing.
Yeah.
Not made for the house.
But every time this bird screams, I'm thinking, okay, this is an opportunity to learn and to hone my stoic skills of not losing my temper with this bird.
Because it's a bird.
Yeah. I mean, we had a canary before that was fine. It sang beautiful songs. And I was like, this is a great bird. But then the new one is like, it just grinds my gears. But it's like, okay, well, this is an opportunity to practice my self-control.
Mm-hmm.
This is an opportunity to look up to my role models and get my...
Uh-oh. What's he got?
This is an opportunity to do him right.
Yeah.
By controlling my anger.
Yeah.
And just living how I'm supposed to live. And not just flying off the handle at everything.
Well, it's a journey, right? You didn't just wake up one day and have this conscious awareness of, I need to be more diligent and more cognizant of my behavior and my mental activity. It's definitely a journey. And I feel like, the audience of people who are between 18 and 25, it's much more difficult because their frontal lobe is not like science. Your frontal lobe is not fully developed until you're like 25 or 26 anyways. Mm-hmm. And so in those years, you are more prone to emotional, irrational, quick, emotionally driven decisions. But it's a journey. And so like you were just saying, like having those role models, especially if you can find someone who's here who, like for you, maybe someone who's also into the Stoic philosophers who you can connect with and you can talk to, bounce ideas off of, and they can point you back to what you guys believe in and the, the way that you want to live. Like I do that with my faith. I do my very best, like you said, to whenever something happens that's going to make me lose my crap, mostly with my children, I try to calm down and not do anything. I don't dole out physical punishments when we are emotionally charged as much as I can. I always explain to my children, whether it's a physical punishment or not a physical punishment, why they are receiving it. And I let them know that they are going to receive that exact same punishment every time they do this thing that's against the rules. Like right now, I've got a 9-year-old. She's very sassy. She's very sassy. So a rule is you're not allowed to be rude and disrespectful. You are more than welcome to tell me about your feelings, your perspective, because I want them to feel heard and I want them to feel valued because their perspective is important and it's different from mine. And their world is much smaller than mine. And so I want them to understand it is okay to feel this way. Let me help you calmly walk through it, but you are not going to get your chicken neck and your finger out and start telling me, first of all, I don't like the way you woke me up this morning, Mom. You were too loud. You came up in here. You turned all the lights on. You let the dog in the room. He licked my face. I didn't get enough sleep last night, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, whoa. And I know she gets that from me. So again, it is very difficult. But again, circling back, it's important for young people in those age groups to find someone to come alongside them who has been in the situation or who has more experience with growing up, life things. If for example, if you're a single mom, find someone in your family or someone in your friend group that you trust who can come alongside your son and be a positive male role model if he doesn't have one. Same thing if you're a single dad. Make sure that you have a strong, a strong, positive female who can come alongside your daughter. Because the roles that moms and dads play are very crucial, and it's hard to fill that gap as a mom for a son. It's hard to fill that gap as a dad for a daughter. And so when you find someone who can come alongside your child and help you, that's only going to make it that much easier for them to navigate life. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me, I saw this, and I think it was actually from Detroit somewhere, some news station.
Yeah.
And some guy was driving his truck down the road with a bunch of logs in the back, and they all fell out. And
they fell out like
out of the back of the truck.
Like Final Destination style, or?
They just fell out onto
okay.
the road. But the news was there talking about some kind of commotion that happened with neighbors and people, and the guy on the news said, "I don't listen to women. I tell them to shut up." And he kept saying that like over and over
to the lady who was interviewing him.
Yeah, like on TV. And he's like, "Oh, yeah." The woman was saying like, "Yeah, apparently there was some neighbor that called down the street." It's like, "Yeah, it's probably a woman. I told him to shut up."
Somebody said that they tried to yell at you to come back, and you kept going. And
it must have been a woman, and I don't listen to women yelling. I tell them to shut up.
Well,
it's like I showed that to my mom, and the first thing that she said was, he probably didn't have a very good female role model in his life.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like, what the heck? Why would you say that on TV?
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's a pretty clear example of somebody that didn't have good role models to teach them how to act around people.
Absolutely.
Apparently.
Yeah. I mean, as a female, my parents are still married. They are very best friends. They will be in heaven together forever. Like, they're never getting divorced or splitting up. And like, honestly, I've never heard them even raise their voices to one another. I mean, they've disagreed, and my mother has made protests, but they were never disrespectful to my father. She's never been rude to my dad, and he's never been rude to her. And she, growing up, with our faith, my father obviously allowed my mom to run the household, for lack of a better way of putting it, the way that I do. But when your husband puts his foot down on something, that's the end of it, and again, that comes back to what we were talking about earlier. Is a really important aspect when you're getting married is trust, right? Do I trust this man to make life decisions for me and my children? Do I trust that he is going to hear and value what I'm going to say? Because, people like to handpick out of the Bible, and they go over to whatever it is. I don't even remember off the top of my head. I usually have it off the top of my head, but the passage, wives submit to your husbands, blah, 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 all of that. Everybody forgets the part where it says, husbands, you are to protect and serve and die for your wife and family. Mm-hmm. It's that duality, that beautiful harmony, right? So he has to trust that you are going to be there to perform your tasks. You have to trust that he's going to value you, take care of you, and perform his job. And again, when you are a single parent, it's very difficult to fill both those roles. So if you can find someone to come in and help you, do that.
Yeah. And I like that you said hand pick, because I've seen that all over the internet.
It's one of my least favorite things that people do.
And I mean, you have to think about, what does the Bible teach as a whole? It teaches that you are not it.
Yeah.
It teaches that he is, but not any one of us. So why would you think that the Bible would teach that exact thing, that you are it?
Yeah.
Like, people are on earth to serve others. It's not to be served. Just like when JFK said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Like, asking how you can serve other people.
Right.
So why you think that the Bible would be teaching, oh, I am a man, so I'm
in charge of all the things and do what I say, or I'm going to slap you down.
Yeah, like, that's not the point of the Bible, man.
I think that it's because we've come into this, we've cultivated a culture of self-service and self-worship. Candace Owens was talking about a couple months ago on her podcast how she was watching this documentary on Netflix, and it was called like World War II in color or something. I don't have it. We don't do Netflix, but she said they took all these photos from World War II color, put them in color, and we're telling the stories. And she's like, I'm sobbing. And if anybody who listens to this, who also listens to Candace, she's not emotional. She's not a crier. She doesn't play that card at all. But she's like, I was sitting on my couch and I'm sobbing because I'm looking at the faces of these young men who are, on both sides, on the American side, the Japanese. She's like, and you can see so much more. You could see how young they are, and they are going out to die, knowing that they are not coming home in order to serve their country and do their duty to their country and to the other people. And she's like, and she was talking about, contrasting it with what our military is up to now and what it looks like now. And I feel like that's a whole nother show, but truly we've come away from what I would call our original traditional culture. Have we made here's what it is. We have made progress. You can't fight progress. We have made progress in all areas of communication, technology, social justice. We've come to the point where we are at the end of that. And so now people are, I feel like, overcomplicating things, if that makes sense. And so I just feel like because we've come away from that culture of traditional ideology of the original, makeup of the family and duties and morals and, all of these things, we don't instill them in our youth anymore. And that's one reason why, my children go to church twice a week. And I mean, you can ask Kaya, she will run down the whole Exodus for you. Like I feel very good. Like if I do nothing else before God calls me home, I will instill in my children a knowledge of God and Christ, because whether you believe in God, the Judeo-Christian God or not, you believe Jesus was the Messiah or not, you cannot argue, like you said, you cannot argue with the good values and morals that the Bible teaches and promotes. And it's a guidebook for your life. It's a blueprint on how to live a not always easy, but a very rich and fulfilling life. Mm-hmm. And I think that is what people are scrambling around right now, grasping for. And because they are seeking this within themselves, they're coming up empty,
Yeah. That, when you're talking about that, it makes me think of this part. I think it was from either whatever podcast mm-hmm. or Fresh and Fit. I can't remember which one, but there is a guy in there that seemed to be an expert of some kind of social issues and maybe neuroscience. And he was talking about the men's midlife crisis. And he was saying how men are giving to their families and they feel like their whole purpose in life is to give to their family, like their wife and their children, to set them up. And then when they step back and maybe their kids are a little bit older and able to kind of maybe fend for themselves, they think, well, what about me? It's like, well, when is my time going to come to get what I want? Like, well, that is what it is. Being a father of a family and a husband, that is the reward.
Yeah.
It's not like you do that and then you get rewarded. Like that is the reward.
The whole journey of raising your kids is the reward, honestly.
Yeah. So I was just confused when he said that, because I thought, well, I mean, I don't have a family now, but that's what I look forward to.
Yeah.
That's the gold prize. That's the blue ribbon. So I think, well, what else do you want? Like what I mean, for a true father and husband, what more would you want?
And I think too, there are these, I was seeing it on, TikTok and Instagram, the dinks, dual income, no kids. And they're
Okay.
talking about, how they, and I mean, it is what it is, but I mean, there are some couples out there who don't have kids, and there are other ways for you to get involved in that kind of parental guidance mentor role. But I wholeheartedly agree with you. I mean, you can, how did Andrew Clavin put it? He said, you can spend your life trying to have everything, or you can focus on what's most important. And I mean, if what's most important to you is your name on a plaque at work, or, making all this money, like, what for? We're all, like, you're all going to die. Yeah. Mic drop. You're all going to die. What are you leaving behind? What is your legacy? Are you making all that money so that way, you can have what you want, you can go on the boat and you can do all the things and have your reward here. But like when you die, like what are you giving that to a hospital? Are you giving it to a charity? Are you giving it to your nephew? Or like you can't take it with you, whether you believe in an afterlife or not. Like you're literally going to die and you can do nothing about it, know? So, I think that that's another part of our culture is we are pushing on these young kids. Number one, the idea of like doomsday, the earth is ending, climate change, war. Like they see there's a continent sized piece of plastic in the ocean. I saw a comedian the other day and she was like, it's really hard for me to encourage my kids and get them to do their homework. She's like, I know there's wars all over the world. We're on the brink of World War III and the water is poison and the government's poison and corrupt, but do your math homework. It's important. I feel like, and that's the other part where, our faith comes in is we have hope. There are so many days where, oh my gosh, like, I don't know how people live without this hope. And I feel I came to tears one day about it because I'm just like, when people are dealing with things that are heavy, whether they are within their control or not, like, how are you getting through that? And I think that is when they are turning to the culture and they're turning to themselves rather than turning to a higher power that is giving them purpose and giving them hope and allowing them to work through all of that positively. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Makes me think of Epictetus. So he said, no man, and man or woman, is free who is not a master of himself. So you think about, oh my God, World War III is on the verge and water is poison, all this kind of stuff. It's like, okay, well, are you going to single-handedly fix all that yourself, or should you just focus on becoming the best person that you can be to fight off and defend yourself from said issues? Yeah.
Monsters, yeah.
So, and there's two schools of thought, like, oh my God, why would I focus on math if all this is going on? But are you going to fix all that yourself? No.
No, that's not to say people shouldn't get involved in, passion projects and causes that are important to them. I think there's zero shortage of that in our society right now. Everybody, is a part of one activist area or another, regardless of what side of the political aisle you're on, the religious aisle. I mean, we are, and I think this is another big issue is like, we're all so divided over all of this other stuff that we are completely ignoring the fact that our country is just totally breaking down right now. And it's just, we are definitely at a pinnacle point in history for our country. And I don't have all the answers. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a poli-sci person. I'm not the most, I'm not a learned doctor. I just know what I see in my everyday life as a person who's living their lives in the trenches. And it's just really concerning. And without, like I said, the hope that I have, I would just be like, if I was a young person too, I'd be like, well, why would I want to get married and have kids when the world is so jacked? Like, I don't even know what kind of future I'm going to be raising my baby in when the sun melts us all, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, if we would all just carry on and do the things that we've been doing for literally thousands of years, everything would be fine. Mm-hmm. It would be fine.
It's not like this is the first crisis humans have faced. Like, look at the Black Plague. Was it? Yeah. 60% of people died or something like that. I mean, if I lived during that time, I would think, all right, this is it.
Right.
God's taken over, reset button hit.
Yeah.
We're all just waiting to die. I mean, that's what I would think.
I mean,
if 2/3 of people I know are dead, I would be pretty scared. But it's like, well, we made it through that, obviously, because we're here now. So
yeah.
Yeah. The thing I always think about when it comes to that type of doomsday thought is, and this is something that I've recently kind of understood, probably because I'm 25 and my frontal lobe is more developed,
Yeah.
is that when you pray, you don't ask for anything.
It's not.
Like, you don't pray, oh, can I please get an A+ on this test? Like, you get what you get. Did you study? No? Okay, well, you're probably not going to do that well.
Yeah,
Done
it's
deal.
not a wish list.
Right. So, but it's more of, and I've also heard the expression, you row the boat, God steers.
Mm-hmm.
He's not putting in the work for you. That's your
You're
job.
putting in the work for him.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I like to wear this, is a reminder of what to do right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not to do evil deeds, as they say. And it's just, I'm putting in the work to I'm not perfect, try to make myself as lovable to God as I can make myself.
Yeah.
But as long as I follow the Bible, and I mean, I'm not comparing Marcus Aurelius to Jesus, but follow my role models and follow the ones that I believe are the path to the light.
Yeah. Goodness, righteousness, honesty.
That's the steering that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I just heard, I was listening to, what verse? I can't remember the name of the chapter, but they were saying people that live wicked lives stumble around the darkness, not knowing what they stumble over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And if you think darkness is always the void, darkness is always there, but the light counters the darkness. The light is stronger than the dark. That's the same with sunlight.
Yeah.
You know, the universe is pitch black, but the sunlight provides light. And anyone that goes towards the light goes towards Jesus. And this is my own tangent, but that's how I feel that you're led towards a better life, towards the light, so you can see what needs to be seen.
So my whole life, I've been a Christian. I got on the bus at Grandma's house on Sunday, went to Sunday school, did the church thing. We were all very involved in church until I was kind of old enough, 10, 11, to say, no, I'll stay home, make my own choices. My life drastically changed when I became a follower. So I've always been a Christian, but I was not an actual follower of Christ until I was like 27 or 28 years old. And there is a difference. Anybody can walk around and say that they're a Christian. And I do my very best to exhibit the behaviors and the, attitudes and the responses that I know God and Jesus would want me to have. But when you truly follow Christ, your whole life will change. And most likely it will change not in the way that you thought it would change. Most often he is going to work things out in a way that you never would have imagined. And, a lot of people who are, down on their luck financially, for example, you're thinking, how can I tithe? How can I follow Christ? I'm telling you, when you start following him as best as you can, connecting and communing with God, your whole life will change. You just have to, it's like living in a box. Your whole life you're in this box, and then you start following Christ and really, literally trusting God with your life. The box opens. You're getting fresh air. You can see the sky now. And you're like, oh, there's this whole world out here, right? And it's very humbling. But the one thing I'm constantly thanking God for is his sovereignty and providence over my life. I am so glad that I'm not in charge. Oh my gosh. When I was in charge, my life was a dumpster fire. It was a literal dumpster fire. And now that I am giving, like you said, I'm giving the wheel to him. I am doing the work. I am going where I'm called. My whole life has changed, and it's only changing for the better. Does that mean that I don't have hard times? Yeah, there's been times where we've had $5 in our bank account, and I'm talking to God and I'm like, God, I don't know how you're going to make this work. I don't know, please. And then the next day I go to work, boom, I get a $350,000 buyer who needs to buy a house in the next 20 days. He always provides, always, and not in the ways you're going to expect it. So you have to keep your eyes open. And that sermon is over. Your church excused.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the like beginning stages of that, because like I said before, I wouldn't say I was a rationally thinking person, but yeah, since becoming 25 years old, I'm kind of...
It's that frontal lobe, homie.
Yeah, I feel like it's getting better, but like, and it's not like anyone on earth will ever feel like they conquered their trust in God. That's always a working
It's a journey.
But I feel like mine is kind of starting.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm starting to kind of get there, and I'm really just... It's taking me a while to understand what faith means. Truly. And it's not just my own interpretation of faith, but just what it means. Because, I mean, think how many millions of people have died for God. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that say, yeah, millions of people have died for God. But it's worth fighting for. And if it helps you that much, then, yeah, it is worth dying for.
I mean... I've heard it said that, you know, a person with a very deeply entrenched ideology will die for that before they will die for like family, friends, you know, whatever. It is something that I believe we are truly missing in our culture, and that is why we are where we are. We have gone away from, again, regardless of whether you believe in the Judeo-Christian God or not, you cannot argue with the stability, structure, purpose, and goodness that the Bible preaches. And because we have gone away from that, we are in chaos because we don't have structure. We don't have purpose. We have people running around confused about who they are, and they're seeking purpose, and they're not finding purpose in the body that God gave them. So they're trying to play God and, manipulate everything. But again, if we go back to structure, purpose, goodness, that's why we are the way that we are. And I think that I'm seeing a lot of, videos coming out from all over the country about these huge revivals, of Christianity. And if you are seeing this and you wholeheartedly have faith, like, it's time to start mobilizing. Like, that, I mean, I'm glad our conversation kind of meandered over this way. Like, I will tell you, I was pumped up. I was like, I'm going to tell everybody about Elite Realty. We're going to talk about property management. And here we are preaching Jesus. And it's good because it's, again, it is the most important thing. And you never know who is going to stumble upon it at just the right time or how God is going to use it as a vessel. And I think that is the other joy that you get when you are following Christ, is you get the joy of participating in the plan and being the vessel for, leading that person to Christ or helping that person through trauma. And then they ask you, how can you be so positive? How do you know? How? And you're like, well, God brought me through this. God told me this, and here it happened. He can do the same thing for you, and just bringing all these people along. I think that is the only way that we can truly save this country from becoming a complete and total disheveled pit of despair, is by everybody coming together, getting back to structure, purpose, and goodness, and just mobilizing, bringing everybody along and participating. Mm-hmm. We have no sense of community anymore. I don't know. I know the lady who lives over here. Nobody knows their neighbors anymore. Nobody, we've come so far away from that apple pie America. Like, what the hell? Mm-hmm. What in the hell?
Yep.
So, all right.
I think one last thought. I think at least for me, the two most important aspects of why to have faith are, one, so that you do not worship yourself, which I mean, I've met a full-blown narcissist. There is no God. Followership there. Because they follow themselves.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would venture to say that most or all truly narcissistic people are not religious. They don't have faith. Because they
not
are
real tangible faith.
Yeah, like, I mean, in their world, they are the righteous one. Like, the person that I'm talking about, I mean, I would say I have a pretty high tolerance for disagreeable people. Well, there are times where I thought, are you ever going to stop talking about yourself? I mean, my God, I couldn't believe my ears, and it just thought, you could use a higher power to kind of bring you back down to earth, where you should be right now. But I think having faith, having a immortal being to worship instead of worshiping yourself, and praying for guidance and protection. Now, whether or not you believe in the spiritual world is up to you, but I believe in it. I want to see a ghost. I've never seen one, but I want to see one. But
I don't think they're real. That's a whole nother podcast.
Okay. Well, I do. And it's not just because I watch movies about that kind of stuff, but I know of actual stories where that's happened, where people have had troubles with spirits. And I mean, I've never heard of a single case where a person that truly believed and followed Christ was susceptible to an evil spirit and lost. And I think that they're out there. I think that they can work in many different ways, either full-on possession or leading you to stray and wicked activities, as they call them.
Yeah.
So I think that is the other reason to follow, is so that you don't get led astray and really don't get led into the arms of a evil spirit.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Protection, and so you don't worship yourself.
Yeah. I mean, we're creatures that are made to worship. So if you're not worshiping God, what are you worshiping?
Yourself.
Yeah. Or someone else.
Yeah. But
either way, it's not healthy.
Not a person worth of worshiping.
Yeah.
Well,
my goodness.
Time flies. We're at 53 minutes.
Almost an hour.
Yep.
Well, this has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
It did not go in the direction I thought it was going to go.
No, it didn't.
But
Not
it was
at all.
great. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed being here. Thank you.
I enjoyed having you because, like I said, I did not plan for this to go this way.
No, we had planned a very businessy chit chat for you guys.
Yeah, but it's been really nothing but that.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good.
But I hope you enjoyed as much as I enjoyed.
I enjoyed it.
And if you would like to see more, please hit the little like button, subscribe,
Share the show.
share it.
Hit the
and-
notifications bell.
Yeah, all that stuff.
I got you, homie. I got you.
And stay tuned for next time.
That was great. You did good.